VLSos here. This is a pre-algebra video lesson on ruler or tape measure. Many of us are familiar with a ruler. Some of us are less familiar with a tape measure, which is a ruler that can be extended. It's very long because it's kept in the case coiled up. This tape measure is 25 feet long if fully extended. A tape measure is common as a tool in construction and can be used around the house. This lesson is about how to read a ruler, and more specifically, how to read a tape measure. A tape measure and a ruler is a number line. It's a number line where the end, one side of the tape, is 0. And then the tape itself is divided into inches and fractions of inches so that we can use the number line to compare it to real-world objects and see how long they are, or parts of them are. I'm going to work with a drawing of my tape measure. I'm imagining that I'm starting at the end of the tape measure, and I'm going to draw the end to be what we call the hook of a tape measure. The hook of a tape measure literally has a hook on it so that it can catch what you're measuring, and then you can pull on the tape to extend it, having caught the hook on an end. The tape then has lines on it to separate it into inches and feet for longer measurements, and then each mark also has smaller marks for fractions of inches. Typically, the inch marks go across the tape and are numbered. And then if we look at an inch inside of 1 inch very carefully, we can see that other marks are made. Usually the biggest mark that doesn't go fully across the tape is to designate where a half an inch is made. Let's extend this tape and take a look at our drawing. So we have the hook, which is the origin on our number line at 0, and as we extend from that point, we count up inches 1, 2, 3, 4, and it keeps on going. The big numbers are the amount of inches. If we extend it to a foot, we usually have a different symbol on a tape measure to show us where our foot marks are so that our eye catches them easily when we're making large measurements. We can see and continue to extend and see the black numbers are still inches, and then we have another foot mark here. 24 inches is 2 feet. The red marks on this tape are to remind somebody how many feet have gone by, as well as inches. So we can look at a red mark here to be 3 feet plus an additional 7 inches for a total of 43 inches. This tape measure is helpful. Let's focus on the fractions of an inch. The half-inch mark is usually the largest mark that doesn't go fully across. And then if we have another mark halfway in between the half-inch mark and the beginning of the inch, those designate quarters. Another mark that is smaller, halfway in between the quarter and the end of the inch, is then a half of a quarter. We call that an eighth. Some tapes have a very small mark. Most tapes and rulers do have an additional smaller mark than a quarter mark to designate 1/16. Some tapes have a smaller mark than that, which would be half of a 16th or a 32nd. And we'll fill in the marks for 1 inch completely. And then the 16ths in between. And of course, on a tape, every inch between the marks that go fully across the tape to show us where our inches are, every single inch has its fraction marks in between. We're only going to mark up 1 inch on our notes. And this would extend off our paper. On our number line, the end is where we start our measurements at 0. Here's something true about the marks to show fractions. The bigger the line, the larger the fraction. Again, looking at the actual tape, we have a large line that doesn't go fully across to be our half mark. The next smaller one is half of that, or a quarter. The next smaller one is half of that, or 1/8. And then our smallest line is half of an eighth, that's 1/16. Some tapes will have smaller lines to be 1/32. We're going to use a tape to make a couple of measurements. The width of the paper. We would use the tape by beginning our measurement on one side of the paper. Using the hook, I can pull or extend it without needing to hold this end. And then I'm looking straight down on where this paper meets the measurement on the tape. And I want to go, and to be precise, to the nearest fraction. So this is a total of 8 full inches, and it hits the half mark. So that would be 8.5 inches. Not surprising, this paper is a common width. Paper size is most commonly 8.5 by 11 inches. Could write this 8.5 and abbreviate inches IN. A couple of words that are commonly used when using a tape measure, especially in construction, though these words might be changed. There might be different expressions for what these words mean in different parts of the world. The word shoot very often is used to ask for somebody to extend the tape. If you're taking long measurements, it helps for somebody to help you do it. Somebody might ask you to shoot them your tape, and that means that you would extend it and continue to extend it so that they could grab it and help you with the measurement. Burn means to start a measurement at a place that is not 0. Why would you do that? It means to begin a measurement somewhere along the tape and not at the origin, not at 0. And the reason why that might be helpful is if you're measuring something small or something light. If I was to measure the width of this pencil, it would be very challenging for a couple of reasons to try to hook the pencil. The pencil's so light I'd move it with the hook. Also, the hook itself kind of crowds the measurement markers at the very beginning of the tape, making it difficult to measure something very small right at the origin or at the end. So we can use the idea of burning or starting a measurement somewhere that is not 0. In this case, I'm looking at this line at 4 inches, and I'm lining it up with one side of my pencil. And I'm going to take the measurement by starting there and reading across the width of the pencil at the quarter mark. I am burning 4 inches. I'm beginning my measurement at 4 inches. So my pencil is not 4 1/4 inches wide, it's just the 1/4. I don't count the 4 that I've started at. The idea of using a tape measure and burning inches can be helpful in other ways. And hold. Hold means to extend the tape to a measure for comparison. It means that we can extend the tape to a certain number of inches. In this case, a common one in my house would be to hold the tape, or maybe a finger, at 28 inches. I have a narrow door, so if I want to move anything through the door, like a piece of furniture, then I need to know in the room if I'm going to be able to fit through that door. So I'll take a tape measure and I will hold 28 inches. And then I can move the tape around and I can find those pieces of furniture that are less than 28 inches wide. I know they can fit through the door, or if they wouldn't be able to. With this basic review of a tape, we'll be using it to do some mathematics with real-world measurements.